My fiancé, 28 male, and I, 30 female, have been together for 3 years. I used to live close to work and used public transportation. But after I moved into his house, which is hours away from work, I bought myself a car. Since I'm a nurse, and also since there isn't any hospitals close to where we live that I could transfer to. My fiancé's car hasn't been working for close to 2 months now. It requires so much money to get it fixed, and he refused my financial help when I offered it. Instead, he would ask to use my car every now and then, and I agreed as long as it's not when I'm working. And also since he only uses it for trips to the supermarket, etc. On the New Year's Eve, he told me he wanted to use my car to go hang out with his friends and celebrate. But I declined because I had to cover a night shift and needed my car to travel to work. He insisted and even suggested I take the night off or swap shifts with another nurse. But I couldn't do that last minute. I thought he dropped it then. But when I went into the shower and got out, I couldn't find him nor the car. I freaked out and started calling for half an hour, but he didn't answer me. I tried again till one of his friends picked up. I demanded he give the phone to my fiancé, but he said they were out and confirmed that he took my car and told me that my fiancé said that it's better that I skip my shift and he'll be back with my car later. I couldn't take it. I felt so enraged. I had my fiancé on the phone, telling him I did not consent for him to take my car to go hang out with his friends, and said I'd call the police to get it back if he refused to come home with it. But he didn't take me seriously, so I ended up calling the police, and he and his friends were picked up at the bar where they were hanging out. Then were taken to the police department. I got my car from there and still went to my shift. My fiancé was let go hours after I left, and he blew up my phone with missed calls and texts about how I was out of my mind to call the police on him and put him in this situation. I did not respond, but when I got off work the next day, we got into an argument, and he said he couldn't believe I'd do this to him. But I told him he made me do this, to which he responded that I was petty and callous, because not only did I ruin his New Year's celebration, but all his friends aren't speaking to him after I put them in this situation as well, and he then kept giving me silence about it. I did consider this a form of theft, especially since he went behind my back after getting a no from me. But he was shocked that I'd even implied that this was a theft, and said what's yours is mine and vice versa, so I should be using the terms theft and stealing. Not the a-hole. Girl, why are you with a man who cannot take care of his own basic needs and insists that you call off work so he can go party? He is using you and you can do better. Do not offer financial help to people like this either. He has money to go out with his friends, then he has money for a car. His friends put themselves into this situation by getting into a stolen car. Do you really think they weren't all sitting around laughing at you before this happened? This is how abuse starts. He alienates you from your environment, makes you dependent on him, makes you question your own sanity by guilting for actions you make. Each step mentioned above is a tactic to make you more submissive to his needs. It doesn't matter if he does it maliciously or not. You will end up in the same abuse cycle. Relationship is based on mutual respect, help, and understanding. If being together makes your life harder, what's the point of the relationship? Not the a-hole, not even a little bit. You moved to where he was even though it meant a massive commute for you. For what? His convenience? You let him use your car instead of getting his fixed because he could man up and accept help? How dare you? Now this little prick steals your car, like a teenager who doesn't understand how being employed works, to go out for a rip with his buds? And tells you, don't worry man, just like don't go. My 36 female, children's 12 male and 9 female, father, male 43, passed away after a long struggle with cancer 3 weeks ago. His death was expected, and the kids knew their dad was very, very sick. But still, I couldn't get them ready to handle this kind of event. Their mental and physical health is my one top priority, and I want them to grieve their dad properly. My current husband, 37 male, saw no need for the kids to attend the funeral after I said they were going with me. He said they're still young, but I said they had every right to be there for the final goodbye. He suggested he go with us then, and I wasn't sure, but I contacted my former in-laws, and they said it was fine. My husband drove us to the funeral and kept making comments to the kids, telling them how to behave, which was uncalled for. We got there and I brought the kids to stand near their grandparents, while my husband kept introducing himself to strangers, then went to stand next to the kids. I was standing from a distance, but could hear the kids crying. I then started hearing my husband telling them to quiet down repeatedly. Not gonna lie, I felt bothered, wishing he'd stop. While the kids were crying, he loudly said, "Stop crying! Really, there's no need for this. It's not like he can hear you." And the kids just started sobbing at this point. I was stunned. I looked and saw my in-laws staring at me. I felt horrible. I walked up to him and whispered I needed a minute with him. I made sure we were away and lost my temper, asking what he was doing. He said he was just trying to comfort the kids and help them get a hold of their emotions. I told him that what he said was horrible and everyone heard it. He tried to argue that he was just trying to help, but I said he had no right to tell the kids how to grieve their father and demanded that he leaves the funeral. But he threw a fit and said I was overreacting. I insisted, then he left later. After the funeral, the kids started avoiding me. They wanted to stay with their aunt. And I went home by myself and found my husband there waiting with an angrily look on his face. He picked up an argument saying I shouldn't have kicked him out of the funeral after he came to support me and the kids. But I told him what he said made the kids refuse to even come home with me. He said the kids are using him as an outlet for their anger, after he's been generous with his time and effort, and this is how we repay him? By making him out to be the bad guy? I refused to keep going, but he kept pushing for an apology for this blatant disrespect I showed him. For more details, my husband never had a good relationship with my children's father. I was confused when he said he wanted to come to the funeral, but then I thought he did it for the kids, not the a-hole. However, this was too little and too late. Your kids are not too young to forget this now. Their relationship with their stepdad will be tainted forever. I would venture to say it's pretty much over. Your husband knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to minimize their dad's death. He was making it about him. It was a purposeful show. He was still there, and he was the dad now. All he should have done is sit there, keep his mouth shut, and give you the support needed to help support your kids. I don't see therapy fixing any of this. Edit. When I made the comment of therapy fixing any of this, it is in relation to the children's relationship with the stepfather. Obviously, grief counseling would help the children and is definitely needed. Family therapy with mom is also going to be needed as well. Yes, also the other comments he made don't paint him in a good light at all. He is trying to act like a victim and a martyr, the outlet for the children's anger. This isn't a person who is aware of how damaging what he did was. If OP decides to stay with him after this, the children could very well see it as her choosing her husband over them, and I wouldn't blame them. OP had the good sense of confronting him in private and not add unnecessary stress to their kids in a situation like this. But the bad part of the confrontations being all in private is that the kids aren't seeing their mother truly standing up for them. Also, by remaining with him, she would be subjecting her own children to many more comments such as these, because this isn't something that a person says once and never again. Especially now that he probably feels emboldened by being the male authority figure in the kids' lives. I, female 20, live in a shared house with 3 other girls. I will call them Sarah, Kate, and Zoe. Kate is friends with Zoe. The rest of us aren't really friends. Whilst I'm on okay terms with Sarah and Zoe, I've never really liked Kate. We have a shared fridge, where we have a shelf for each of our stuff. I have noticed that my food and milk constantly goes missing. I see multiple times a week that a large portion of my food and milk is gone. It's unbelievably frustrating, and also very time-consuming and expensive having to cook new food. I always believed it was Kate, because, number one, she is awake late in the night, 1 to 4 a.m. I am asleep then, and I tend to notice my stuff missing in the morning. Number 2, I have asked all of them about it. Sarah and Zoe both deny taking my stuff, but Kate gets all defensive and says I shouldn't accuse her when I have no proof. I was complaining about it to my friend, and he said he was in a similar situation, and he got a fridge camera. I thought this was a great idea. I got one, placed it discreetly inside the fridge, and decided to wait a week. Sure enough, it was Kate, raiding my food daily. I confronted her about it, because now I have proof. I showed her the footage, told her to never do it again, and that she should repay me for what she took. She went crazy. She said how dare I put a camera in the shared kitchen without asking the others first, and how it's so invasive to record others in their own home. I explained the camera only recorded the inside of the fridge, not the whole kitchen, but she didn't care. She has since said she'll never be able to feel safe in her own home again. Zoe has sided with her, and they're both calling me an a-hole and saying I should have asked everyone first, even though this would have defeated the whole purpose. I said none of this would have happened if Kate hadn't been stealing my food and lying about it. Sarah has taken my side, so it's pretty tense in the house at the moment. Not the a-hole. Kate, how dare you produce evidence of me stealing to back off your charges? This is an outrage. Do not apologize. You should insist to the other roommates that Kate should apologize and pay you back or move out. I appreciate this advice. I do feel like during this whole saga, Kate's original wrongdoings, the theft, have been swept under the rug. For the record, Kate has hardly mentioned the theft at all, hasn't apologized, and when I asked her to paying me back, said she's not paying me shot. Zoe hasn't mentioned it either, and Sarah is staying out of it, although she said she agrees with me. I think it's a good idea to reshift the focus back to the original issue. Kinda going with everyone sucks here. Kate for stealing your food, for sure. A-hole slam dunk there. On the other hand, I don't think you can place a camera in someone's home without their knowledge and expect them to be chill about it. Growing up, it was pretty clear that my parents weren't happy. They have nothing in common, and he always seemed miserable when he was home. He lived and breathed his job, neurosurgeon. He was an okay dad, pretty bad husband, and when I was a senior in high school, he left my mom for his affair partner, Abby, who was also a surgeon at the hospital. My mom was humiliated, and it took her a long time to heal emotionally. My brother and I didn't talk to my dad for about a year, and slowly have resumed contact. He proposed to Abby 9 months ago, and while I saw it coming, it still felt like a blow, and I was upfront about I don't know if I want to go to the wedding or not. He's been with Abby for almost 3 years, and he acts like a totally different person. He is like a giddy teen, and it's really weird to watch. Objectively, I get that she is much better for him. He had nothing in common with my mom, and he needed someone who was more driven and passionate. Also, my mom hated all of his hobbies, camping, hiking, beach, because she didn't want to get dirty, and they just weren't compatible. Abby is a bit more of a tomboy, and they do everything together. He's really happy, and I guess I'm happy for him. I recently visited them and agreed to go to the wedding. My dad and I had a private talk, and I said I will never fully forgive him for cheating, but I can see that he is really happy. He said he wishes the best for my mom. He didn't understand how important compatibility was when he was young, and then he laughed and said that if they didn't want him to cheat, he wouldn't have a bed at work. This pissed me off, because from other jokes I've heard, from a mutual friend, not him, the two of them were having sex around at work. Hopefully not in the hospital, but it just reminded me of how my mom being the last to know, and how he always couldn't wait to go to work. I snapped at him that he is such an a-hole, can never resist the urge to make dumb jokes. He teased way too much when I was young, and it affected our relationship, and said I wasn't going to the wedding. I stormed off, and he just texted me sorry and nothing else. Abby sent me a long message about how it was a pretty tame joke and just his personality, and I'm being too sensitive. She asked me to reconsider. The wedding is in the end of January, so I don't have much time to decide. Not the a-hole. After Dad teased OP so much when OP was a teenager that it hurt their relationship, Dad chose to make a joke about the thing OP had just told him was unforgivable. Sad joke being how easy it was to cheat on the mother of his children. And even if OP had still been on the fence about going to the wedding, Abby telling OP not to be so sensitive and father not giving a sincere apology makes it obvious that Dad and Abby don't know or care how their affair affected the family. As an aside, the joke was also in bad taste, because those beds at Dad's work are for doctors who have to sleep at the hospital because they're on call and or have a very long shift. So not only is father an a-hole to his family, he's an a-hole to his colleagues. Not the a-hole. I don't get the joke. I guess you have to figure out if not going to the wedding will end your relationship with your dad. If it does, is it worth it to you to not go? The joke was in very poor taste considering the topic. Edit. I wanted to add one more comment. Abby sent me a long message about how it was a pretty tame joke and just his personality. Joking about cheating on your child's mother with said child is not a tame joke. There is a lot of pain there for the child. Sounds like neither of them understand that.